wanted to say a short Dvar Torah on the Parsha about the terrible punishment, retribution, death, and destruction that comes from Lashon Hara and gossiping. We want to shout out to our special guests that joined us, that made the shir possible. Baruch Hashem, they're maybe little, but they're big tzaddikim here. So I'm so proud of them. We know this week's Parsha, the 10 princes of the nation of Israel, the Meraglim said Lashon Hara about the Eretz Yisrael. And the Shlah Hakodesh just brings out, Al Derech Musar, one always has to be cognizant and aware that when one does say Lashon Hara and gossip, he brings terrible punishment to himself. And in addition to the entire world. Like these 10 Meraglim. Baruch Hashem, Yehoshua and Kalev from the tribe of Ephraim and Yehuda stayed pristine and they didn't become corrupt. But the 10 other Meraglim, they came back and they said that the land is terrible, it eats its inhabitants. And the Shlah says, you should know, when you say Lashon Hara, the greatest of greatest damage, harm, suffering and anguish comes internally to yourself. Because they died a terrible and disgusting death. Now, the Chidah just adds on a commentary, we see in the Zohar that Hashem is our shadow. So, since Hashem is our shadow, Kabbalistically, another major terrible ramification of Lashon Hara is that everything in this world works mida keneged mida, like a spiritual karma, lahavdil, measure for measure. So when we say Lashon Hara about our fellow, then the Satan has permission to say Lashon Hara about the nation of Israel and us personally. And Rabbi Kassin has this one of those marvelous shiurim about Lashon Hara that you're shooting yourself in the foot and it damages your mazel terribly because the Satan can't prosecute you even if you have a lot of sins unless you say Lashon Hara. And he just brings the second point to Shlah Hakodesh, that Hashem was so sensitive and made the Jews suffer for 40 years and stay in the desert, but they said Lashon Hara in the end of the day about something that was emotionless, right? The land of Israel doesn't have a heart, doesn't have a reputation, doesn't have emotions and sensitivities. They were talking about wood and stone. So Kal V'chomer, 1,000 times more so, when you destroy somebody's reputation and you break his heart and you do character assassination, it's much more sinister and terrible. So one of the greatest challenges of every day of our life is to be meticulous, careful, on top of it, to be careful what comes out of our mouth. Because we as Jews have to be kosher in everything we do. What we eat needs to be kosher, but even more than that, we have to be careful and meticulous. What comes out of our mouth should be kosher. And rather than being negative, we can make people and encourage each other and say words of love and encouragement and brotherhood and bring blessing and unlimited good to the world if we use our words properly. Have a great Shabbat.